Hi, this is Dr. Toby, your host on Health and Wellness. This week we have a great show. You don't want to miss it. Heather and Jeremy King, both medical people. Heather is an infectious disease nurse practitioner, rose through the ranks, went to university, went to college, got her nurse practitioner, helps people with hepatitis, helps people with HIV and different infectious diseases. Her husband is an EMT, he's an emergency medical technician, and he's now the trainer and the leader of the University of Mississippi Medical Center, ACLS, ATLS, where they have trainings for people who want to get BLS certified. You don't want to miss this awesome couple. They have two children, and they are a Christian couple, and they've been giving their lives out to people who need help the most. You will be blessed by hearing about Jeremy and Heather King, EMT and nurse practitioner. It's a show you wouldn't want to miss. God bless you. Jesus is Lord. Hi, this is Dr. Toby, your host on Health and Wellness. Thank you for joining us. We have a great show lined up with Heather and Jeremy King. Heather is an infectious disease nurse practitioner. Jeremy is an EMT instructor and the director of I'll just say the Learning Center in the University of Mississippi Medical Center. And let me just say here that everything we say, we're not speaking on the behalf of the University of Mississippi Medical Center. We're speaking in our own private capacity. But like I've always shared with you, my goal for this show is 3 John 2. We wish above all things that you prosper and be in health, even as your soul prospers. So we want you to learn a couple of things that we feel will benefit you health-wise and also long-term spiritual-wise. So Heather, you're welcome on the show.
Thank you.
Jeremy, you're welcome on the show. Thank you for coming. You're such a beautiful couple. Thank you for coming. So you have 2 lovely kids. They're 13, 14. You don't look like you're 21. You don't look like you're 25. So when did this marriage happen? I mean, was it high school marriage or?
No.
So I'll say that we met in high school, if
Okay.
you will, or we came from the same city of Pearl, Mississippi.
Pearl, Mississippi.
And so she was 1 year younger than me in our grades. So we've kind of known each other for quite a while, but I think the romance maybe started in high school.
Okay.
She was a 9th grader and I was a 10th grader, and we both had choir together, I think. And
Okay.
I remember looking over there and seeing her from across the room and
Oh,
saying,
really?
"Hey, she's kind of cute. Maybe I need to talk with her." So that started quite a while back. I guess we've been married about 20 years. Is that right?
It'll
20?
be 20 years this year.
Wow.
She keeps up with it a little better than I do.
Together for 28.
My
Yeah.
wife and I have been married 19 next month. So you guys are one ahead of us. So
Wow.
that's really impressive. Really impressive. Okay, so 20 years already or 20 years to come?
It'll be 20 years in December.
Wow, that is amazing. So give us a little background. After high school, obviously you didn't get married in high school.
Right.
No.
So you dated and what happened?
Well, so we went to college, of course. She went to University of Mississippi in Oxford,
Okay.
and I started my college experience at a junior college right outside of the Jackson area there. And so we had a little bit of a long-distance relationship, but
kept
I
in
say that, but we kept in
Right.
touch. We were, only 2.5 hours away, so we
Okay.
made it work. And I think we spent a year together in Oxford before she was coming back to Jackson,
I
and
had to go
then
to the medical school for nursing school.
right.
Okay.
So
Okay.
I spent 2 years
So what
in
did you do in
Oxford.
Ole Miss?
So I spent 2 years of my undergraduate at
Okay.
Ole Miss,
Oh.
and then my last 2 years was at the
The
University
University Medical Center.
Medical Center.
Awesome. Oh.
Right, and he was at Ole Miss during that time period.
When she was
while
back
I was
in Jackson.
back in Jackson.
Oh,
right.
you switched.
That's right.
Right.
So what did you do in Ole Miss?
Well, I didn't know what I wanted to be when I grew up, but I
Okay.
really know that I liked music, right? So that
Oh,
was
wow.
kind of one of my first loves, I suppose. So I went and studied music, vocal music, and music education was what my bachelor's degree
Oh,
ended up being.
wow.
So it was
And
a
you're
good
doing
time.
EMT?
Yeah, it's a little funny pathway the way life takes you sometimes. It's not really the path where you thought you might end up. In high school, I remember there being surgical shows on TV, and I would get queasy when I'd watch them a little bit. But I started teaching at Madison School there, and I was young. I was 22 when I was into that role, and just very young, and my classroom management skills weren't too great. So had a few buddies in the fire department, and they said, "Hey, we love it over here," and I said, "Well, I'll give it a shot." So
was that high school you were teaching or elementary?
It was high school, 9th through 12th grade. So if you imagine at 22, the new teachers that come out, I mean, their students are, 4 years in age difference from them, and they have a tough time sometimes. Like if they were like me, I was a little immature too, so I had a little tough time classroom management. But made it into the EMT world. I really wanted to be a firefighter. The open door for that was basically getting your EMT, and then at the time, it's fairly easy right now to get on a fire department. A lot of openings, but at the time there may be 20 applicants for maybe 2 positions with a fire department a year. So I really had to get a leg up. I had to go to EMT school and be a volunteer for a little while, and that kind of opened that door for me.
Awesome. Tell me a bit about, so we hear this all the time that opposites attract, likes repel. Was that the case in your situation? Are you opposites? I mean, obviously you are attracted to each other. Are you guys, the personalities, are they different? What attracted you to each other? That's my question. Because people say opposites attract because you like what you don't have or something like that, or what you want something in another person, so you pull that person in. What do you think? Is that a truth, or is that?
Go ahead.
In some cases, I guess, I think we complement each other.
Okay.
I think we balance each other out. I feel, is a little bit more outgoing than I am. I'm a little bit more
Introverted, I would
yes,
say.
introverted. Also, it seems to be I'm a little bit more organized.
Oh, she's very much more organized than I am.
He's a little bit more spontaneous.
Okay.
So I think we just balance each other
balance
out
each
really
other
well.
out.
We just enjoy each other's company.
I would say there's some of that opposites attract, but we still have enough of the same likes that we find that commonality and that common ground, and we can explore the things.
But what do you
that we
think
both
attracted
like.
you in the first place? Obviously her looks,
Oh
and then
yeah. Definitely her looks to begin
Okay.
with. So that's like I said, I was spying across, and then we ended up on a field trip, riding the yellow bus down to the coast, the Walter Anderson Museum. I believe it was a history field trip, and we ended up, like I said, I'd been kind of looking at her, so I made my way into the same seat that she was in.
And the rest is history.
Struck up a
big deal.
conversation, and there we go.
And what attracted you to Jeremy, if I may ask?
I would say his smile, his
Okay.
blue eyes, and he had lots of blonde hair.
Oh, so he's always had blonde hair.
He has.
The little gray sports car didn't help either. So.
No, it was cute too.
I mean, was he an athlete? Was he a musician?
Musician, we were in choir together.
Okay, okay.
Yeah, musician, we both really enjoy music.
Oh, wow, interesting.
Yeah, and he was just very friendly.
How did your parents take it? I mean, were you both, was it an easy thing for them to agree to, or was there a difficulty, on both sides of the parents?
I'd say I felt pretty welcome. And then I come from a bigger family, if you will, and my folks have always been welcoming of anybody. So if there was, I'd say, hey, Mom, can so-and-so come over? So they come to Christmas or Thanksgiving? And she was like, yeah, bring them, bring whoever you want.
Okay.
And so my entire extended family kind of got used to being around a lot of people and didn't mind an extra person or an extra 10. And so I think the first year Heather came to Thanksgiving maybe and has been to every one since, you
Yeah.
know.
So
Yes.
was faith a part of your family upbringing? Just want to get a background to the kind of homes you both were raised in. Was it a faith family? Was it no church? Everybody has a different experience.
So I grew up Southern Baptist.
Okay.
Jeremy grew up Primitive Baptist,
right. Oh.
and we now attend Presbyterian Church.
Oh, The one in Jackson? Or?
We attend one in Jackson, yes.
Okay, nice, nice. So obviously that was not a problem. You were both Baptist, even though one is Baptist Southern and one is Primitive. There was never an issue with that, was there?
No.
I
Theologically.
would go to church with him one Sunday.
Right.
He would come to church with me the next Sunday. We would just alternate.
I know they don't do a lot of music. Am I wrong?
They don't. They do
In the Primitive.
That's right. There's no instruments in the Primitive Baptist Church, and we do music, but it's congregational singing. So if you ever see a Primitive Baptist hymnal, it'll have the shape note singing. So there's different shapes for each note, and then we would have singing school every summer for about a week, where we would kind of learn how to.
So where did you learn to play instruments if you didn't have instruments?
Well, I got interested in, say, the guitar somewhere around 14 or 15, but I really didn't pick it up until probably about the time that I was 30 when I really got interested in it. But prior to that, I would say by being in that church, by being around that music, and it's just vocal music, my ears could pick up the harmonies and could pick up the different parts, and I was used to singing a lot. So that was kind of my major instrument, if you will, voice. That's how I got along that path into music. I just like singing.
Is marriage a bed of roses, or is it? I wrote here, is it a hedge full of thorns, or is it something in between?
I'll let Jeremy
I
handle
hate to
this
say
one.
that because everybody believes marriage is a bed of roses, but even roses have their own thorns, right?
That's right.
So 20 years, you can give us a little synopsis. After 20 years.
Right,
I'm gonna let him take this.
I think we've been fortunate.
Okay.
We found,
Yeah.
like you mentioned earlier, the kind of yin-yang thing, or the opposites attract, or whatever it is. I would say mostly for us it's been roses. We've just been super fortunate. Now, not to say that we don't have our little disagreements here or there, but I can't think of a time when there was just a fight where we stayed mad at each other for any length of time. It's more,
No.
I would be probably the passionate one, and she's the more reasonable one, and so I think there's some give and take on both ends a little bit, but I think I married up, Dr.
Okay.
Toby. She's very easygoing, and she
Okay.
can deal with all of my idiosyncrasies pretty well. So I don't know. I think that's it. You just find somebody that can deal with your bad stuff, or whatever you bring to the table that's not ideal. And
So what would you say to those couples who are trying to keep their marriage fire burning? They don't want to quit. They don't want to divorce. They don't want to turn the clock back. They don't want to give up on the marriage. This for Heather. What would you advise that couple who is having a hard time? Maybe they are 1 year and they're married, 5 years, 7 years. What would you say? What would you give them as a positive advice for them to take home today?
I would say be kind to each other,
Okay.
treat each other with respect. We always say, please and thank you, and help each other out if you see that your spouse is struggling with something. If they're overwhelmed at work and they come home and they're trying to do some things at home, help them out. Whether it's with the housework or the yard work, help each other out. Marriage is not 50-50. Sometimes it's 60-40 or 70-30. You just help each other out, and try to find what drew you to each other in the beginning.
Right.
What made you interested in each other, and try to rekindle that.
So that's what the Bible says about being a helpmate. So nobody comes into marriage to be the Lord, you have to be a servant. You want to serve each other.
Yes.
And a lot of people misconstrue the Bible that says, husbands, love your wives, and wives, submit to your husband. And people are like, oh, you got to submit. But if you read later on, the Bible now says submit one to another.
That's right.
Yes.
So it's all about mutual submission
Yes.
for marriages to be sustainable. So that's awesome. Thank you so much. Talk to me about marriage and children. Did it change the dynamics of the marriage? You had children 4 or 5 years after you got married. Did it change anything? Because I've heard people say, oh, children come in and it almost takes away the focus of the marriage from each other.
It does for a short period. I mean,
Okay.
you're just so tired. Honestly, our children are 18 months apart, so you're just tired, and you're just trying to meet their needs and your needs for day to day for a while. So I would say, in a way, yes, but you're also still helping each other. What would you say?
Yeah, I think the first child changes every detail of your life. No doubt, everything changes. You suddenly have this extra additional, and really just the main focus of your life almost in this physical world, I suppose. And then the second child is a whole new ball game. It's just we just changed from baseball to football, and we have to learn all of those rules. But I would say it brought us closer together. We learned how to manage that, and again with that give and take. Sometimes I'm needed more in certain areas, and sometimes she's needed more in certain areas, and I believe it definitely takes a good team to make this happen.
A lot of people in America, and I hate to use it as an example, blame their parents for their own failed marriages. They say, "Oh, I was raised in a single-parent home. My father left at 12. I never had the comfort of a father or a mother." And unfortunately, with American divorce at 60, 70%, we have a lot of single-parent homes right now. Mm-hmm. So now I want to ask you a personal question. Did your family upbringing help you in your current marriage? I don't know what kind of homes you were raised in. Was it with two parents? Was it with single parent? But do you think what you experienced was a plus in your current marriage? What kind of homes were you raised in, and how did that affect you in the marriage? Some people try to marry as a compensatory tool. Oh, I had no father, and they want to have the idealistic husband because they did not have a father figure. So they now want that man to be everything they ever dreamt about, and unfortunately, the man falls short.
Oh yeah, we all would.
You
right?
know. So I'm trying to say here: was your family upbringing instrumental in your marriage, in your success, in how you've run your marriage? Were you both raised in single parent, or parents were both in the home? You had both parents in the home.
So we were fortunate that we were both raised with our parents both in the home. They're all still married.
Okay.
We were fortunate that we were able to see good relationships modeled through not only our parents but our grandparents as well.
Wow, that's pretty awesome. You're talking about 50 years at least, maybe 30, 40, your parents, right?
Right.
Yes.
How many years have your parents been married?
So my parents, I guess they've been married for 43 years.
Wow.
Mine
At
are
least
similar.
43 years, something around there.
But
And
your
then
grandparents
my grandparents
passed.
are still.
Are they still alive?
My grandparents
Wow.
are still alive. They're in their late 80s, and
Wow.
they're still married as well.
I have one grandparent that's still living. My other grandparents have all passed.
So you saw marriage in real life.
Yes.
I mean, you saw conflict, but you also saw
Sure.
how they resolved it.
Sure. At the end of the day, they were still loving each other. They were still
Right.
coming home. They were still together. So we were very fortunate in that aspect.
Okay.
I don't think I ever had a worry about that. I didn't have the worries or the trials and tribulations that some folks are presented with.
Some
for
people
sure.
think American sociological demographic is changing because of the single parent dynamic. Nobody's fault, but a lot of people attribute to the gunshots, the juvenile delinquents, the spiraling STDs, a lot of people, the teenage pregnancies, even in the medical sector, they think a lot of this is due to not having a parent in the home, that we have become so busy. Parents are, obviously, if you have a single parent, it's hard for them to be there all the time. So it's such an interesting discourse. But, you guys have seen a parent, grandparents that lived through whatever difficulties they had and survived their marriage. Some people think we quit too early in this new generation. Some people
Right.
think maybe our grandparents and our parents had more tenacity, more patience, more fortitude. They didn't just run out at the first curse word. I hate to use that, but
Right.
at the first quarrel,
Yeah.
So I'm thinking maybe we can do a little better in this generation. Maybe we can stay in for the long haul. What do you think? Have you noticed that a lot of your friends, as females or males, give up a little? I mean, what do you think of the increased divorce rate? That's my question. Is it something that we can do something about, or is it just society in general? I mean, your kids one day are going to get married. Obviously, you want them to stay married. How can we protect our children from this spiraling divorce rate that is affecting more than 50% of American marriages? What do you think we can do as a...
I think there's intense pressure on young folks to follow a certain path, to pick up after high school and go to college, then get married, then buy the house, then have the kids. If you look at our relationship, it wasn't something that happened overnight or that we just jumped into. We dated for probably 8 years before we actually got married, and then we did follow that traditional path. I would say we went to college, and then afterwards, after we were somewhat established, we got married. But we had had a relationship for 7 or 8 years prior to jumping into marriage. So she was
getting a foundation.
Yeah, she was
Right.
the person that I liked spending time with.
Okay.
It was not just a physical attraction thing. We just had fun when we were together. She was my best friend. So who better to spend my time with than the rest of my
So
life with?
getting to know the person is also
Right.
very important.
I think so. And then, that first, I'd say 6 months, year of marriage was supposed to be that honeymoon thing, but we're together, and I'm having to learn to live with another person all the
Same
time,
here.
right? So there's all of a sudden, even though we were together for 7 years, 8 years, it was, oh, you do that.
Yeah, it's different. It's difficult sometimes.
So then we say, okay, can we change or modify that behavior, or is that something that I'm going to have to live with? And then, is it worth it? We ask all these questions, and yes, undoubtedly it's worth it with her to live with whatever she's got going on. I'm just going to deal with it. Or there might be times when, hey, can you roll the toothpaste up from the bottom instead of squeezing from the middle of the tooth? Okay, yes, I can make that modification for you, and here we go. That's a part of that give and take,
Change,
part of the
right.
marriage, but it's just getting to know each other. That first year, I just remember was, oh, okay, so this is my new life. I don't get to do what I want to do all the time.
Wow.
I have to give and take. So it's just realizing that, I think. Yeah.
I think society has made it more acceptable to become divorced. In the past, I do feel like there were marriages who survived, but they weren't happy. So I think society does play a part in that, and that it is more acceptable now. But I think the bottom line is marry the person that you enjoy being around, that is your best friend.
50 years from now, you still want to be with that person.
Yes.
Not the whole idea of physical attraction that, doesn't stay forever. And then 50 years, you're like, what did I marry? You're like, of course, it wasn't going to remain what you saw 20 years ago,
Right.
So, now, curiosity is here. What professions were your parents in? I'm curious if that played a role in your current career. So what parents were your parents in? What career, what profession?
So my father, he worked for Eaton Aerospace, and he
Okay.
just retired there after 42 years, I believe.
Wow.
So he would take the diagrams of airplane parts and basically put them into a computer as a computer program, and so the machine would check the parts, within millimeters and all met specifications. So he kind of did that. My mother,
That's impressive.
yeah,
Because computers were not here until the 90s, really.
Right.
So he must have been a genius to use computers.
well, the
the
idea
early
that
90s.
some engineers are giving him some plans, and then he has to take the plans and take that and translate that into some kind of digital information that goes into a computer by looking at that. And
So
how
you
do you
grew
do
up
that?
with a computer in your house.
So
a
yeah,
young
for
kid.
the most part, I was
Wow.
technologically, I was a technological kid, I suppose. I was around
Okay.
electronics, and then my mother, very social person. She's a beautician, so if you've ever seen Still Magnolias, I would say her beauty shop is a lot like Truvy's there.
Yes.
What's true? What's still Magnolia?
So
It's a movie. It's a Southern movie.
Okay.
where a lot of the Southern ladies go to the beauty shop and
They
talk
meet there
and
and talk
meet and
there
talk
about
and
life
have a
and-
good time. And I would say that's her beauty
But
shop.
why would your dad live in Pearl and work in Easton? Is in Madison, isn't it? Oh, it's in Jack. It's in Madison, isn't it?
This is Pearl. Pearl is where
it's
we
in
live.
Pearl.
Pearl is where we live.
That's where the
well,
Eaton is?
Eaton is. It was Vickers prior, and it's
okay.
in Jackson.
Now it's in Jackson.
So it's
Okay.
been in Jackson forever.
Oh,
I think he never went to college. I think he started out there with my grandfather, and I think he was servicing their vending machines.
Your grandfather worked there too?
My grandfather didn't work there. My grandfather was a fireman, but they were servicing vending
Now
machines.
you're telling me why you're in EMT. Your
Right,
grandfather.
firefighter, right. I got a long family history of that.
Okay, now I'm
But
hearing that.
I think the way he started is he was out there on the weekends and somebody got him a job out there. And so they said, well, we need somebody to do this. We'll send you to be trained. And so they trained him how to do it, and that's what he's done. And
Wow.
What's amazing is they're still using that same technology
Wow.
to check these parts on airplanes that we fly on
So did
today.
your granddad's fireman experience influence you to become a fireman? Not a fireman, but a fireman / EMT, you know what I mean?
I don't think so. I think I knew he was a fireman at some point, and then he was a fireman in Georgia. And then now I have 3 cousins that are also firemen that are working today doing that. Somehow or another, we just got drawn into it. There have been some situations in life, and probably, I don't know, as many as I've had, I would think most people come across a situation where somebody needs some help and you just don't know what to do, and you stand there and you're bewildered, and I really didn't like that feeling. So there are a couple of those feelings in my life, or instances in my life, where somebody may have had a jet ski accident. I remember that one from being a teenager, and then another one where a lady was hit by a car in front of me, and I'm standing there and I don't know what to do. And those, I like to help people.
Help people, right.
So that was part of the catalyst of I need to be better in this situation, because I was not very good to begin with.
Awesome. So we'll come back and talk with Heather on why she chose nursing and why she went into nurse practitioner, infectious disease, and she'll tell us a little bit about that. Maybe her grandparents had an influence. Maybe her parents, I don't know. We're going to hear the story. But we want you to join us on this same show with Jeremy and Heather King. Look us up on our website, faithandpower.online. We're here on the Monroe Holy Ghost Night on the 15th of July. You will be blessed at the Clarion Inn. We want to see you at the Oyo Hotel on I-165. Write to us, P.O. Box 550, West Monroe 71294. We're looking forward to hearing from you. We have a few new materials coming out, some books, some devotionals. We'll send you an email. If you send us an email to ritapraise1@gmail.com. So looking forward to seeing you on the 15th of July, Holy Ghost Night, Oyo Hotel on I-165. We'll be ministering on open heavens, and we'll be also looking forward to seeing you. Write to us, and looking forward to getting emails from you at ritapraise1@gmail.com. God bless you. Jesus is Lord.